The Pyramids at Giza. The pyramids at Giza in Egypt are the oldest of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and they are also the only ones still standing. No one knows exactly how these great tombs were built, but for over 4,000 years the Great Pyramid of Khufu was the tallest building in the world. The civilization of ancient Egypt is one of the oldest in the world. People began to live along the fertile banks of the Nile River about 7,000 years ago. About 2,000 years later, Egypt became one country, ruled by a single king. The ancient Egyptians created marvelous works of art, built towering temples, and developed their own religion. The pyramids are among their most lasting and beautiful monuments. These massive structures are square at the bottom with 4 triangular sides. The Egyptians worshipped a sun god, Re, and they may have chosen the pyramid shape to represent the rays of the sun pouring down to earth, or perhaps they thought the dead king buried in the pyramid could use its sloping sides as a staircase to climb to the gods in the sky. The power of the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that after death people went to another world where their bodies would live again, so they preserved dead bodies by a process called mummification. The bodies were embalmed, wrapped in bandages and protected in tombs which were meant to last forever. Pyramids were built as royal tombs to house the bodies of kings, or pharaohs, who were buried with magical equipment to help them in the next life. The Miracle of Giza. In about 2560 before Christ, the Egyptian king Khufu, who is sometimes known by his Greek name Cheops, built a pyramid at Giza in the desert near Egypt's modern capital, Cairo. 2 smaller pyramids were later built nearby for Khufu's successors, Khafra and Menkaure. These 3 pyramids are the finest examples of pyramid building in Egypt, and they are also the largest. They were surrounded by temples where priests could make offerings to the dead kings, and by the smaller tombs of the royal family and servants. Khufu's pyramid is called the Great Pyramid, and it is well named. The Greek historian Herodotus believed that it took about 20 years to build. Nearly 2.5 million blocks of stone were used, many weighing about 2.25 tons each. The Great Pyramid stands 145.75 meters high, even though part of its top is now missing, and covers a massive area of 5.37 hectares. It is so big that Westminster Abbey and St. Paul's in London, St. Peter's in Rome, and the cathedrals of Florence and Milan could all fit inside it. King Khufu reigned for 23 years, but, despite the immense size of his pyramid, the only image we have of him is a tiny ivory statue. Pyramids. Pyramids were built in the north of Egypt between 2670 and 1899 before Christ, mainly on the west bank of the Nile. At first they had a stepped shape, but later pyramids had smooth sides covered with white limestone. The pyramids of ancient Egypt are the most famous, but stepped pyramids were also built by people in other parts of the world, such as Mesopotamia and Central America. These were built later than the Egyptian pyramids, and their purpose was different. For example, some included temples for human sacrifice. A mighty task. Exactly how the pyramids were built is still a mystery. The ancient Egyptians used rollers and levers but had no tools like the pulley to help them lift the massive blocks of stone. We know that the builders began by making the ground level and then matched the 4 sides of the pyramids to face north, south, east, and west. The sides were measured very accurately with rope. In Khufu's Great Pyramid, the difference in length between the longest and shortest sides is only about 20 centimeters. Stones were cut in quarries across the Nile River, and further south, and taken by boat to the site, where they were shaped and dragged on log rollers from the river to the building area. Different ideas exist about how they were raised and fitted into place. Herodotus says that the Egyptians used machines made of wooden planks, while others believe that the stones were taken on sleds or rollers up a ramp that spiraled round the pyramid. Archaeologists have found the remains of ramps near the pyramids. Herodotus said the pyramids were built by slaves, but he was wrong. Free Egyptian men worked on them for a few months each year, especially when the Nile River flooded the land and no farming could be done. Pyramid building was one of man's first attempts at building on a massive scale, and it demanded great skill and organization. Any monument built now which lasted as long as the Great Pyramid would still be standing in the year 6562. These pyramids far excel all other works throughout Egypt, not only in the greatness and costs of the building but in the excellency of the workmanship. Diodorus of Sicily. Inside the Great Pyramid. The entrance to a pyramid was usually on its north side so that it faced the polar star, which was important in Egypt's religion. Like most pyramids, the Great Pyramid had a chamber inside where the king was buried. A passage called the Grand Gallery slopes up 47 meters into the center to the burial chamber, called the King's Chamber. Khufu's stone sarcophagus, coffin, carved from one massive piece of granite, lies inside the chamber. Two narrow passages slope upward from the chamber to the outer surface of the pyramid. The Egyptians believed the dead king could see the sun god's daily journey across the sky through these shafts. When the king was buried, workers inside sealed the entrance passage with a great stone, then escaped by a secret passageway. Pyramids today. There were as many as 90 pyramids in ancient Egypt. Most of the major ones have now been thoroughly studied, but new discoveries are still being made. In 1954, a large wooden boat owned by Khufu was found buried in a pit near the Great Pyramid. Archaeologists are still studying the tombs surrounding the pyramids at Giza. Pyramids have continued to fascinate us. Ever since ancient times, people have made their own tombs look like copies of Egyptian pyramids or temples. New pyramids are even being built today, though not as tombs. One extraordinary example is made of glass and stands outside the Louvre Museum in Paris.